Alright, today you guys are stuck with me and Katie. Mr. Fegley is at a conference in Savannah, so he's lucky some day in Savannah. You guys get to hang out with us. So today we're going to do grade management and social media. It's going to be a pretty simple class, easy. I'm going to be really nice and pretty much do your homework for you. If you follow along and pay attention, you're going to be done with one assignment pretty much by the end of the day. For some in-house stuff, for the smartboard, like homework, you don't raise your hand, but for the people that didn't finish it, you have until the beginning of the next class to get it in. He felt bad because some people couldn't download it, and a lot of you guys stayed and tried to finish it, so he said that by the beginning of the next class, if you get it in, you'll be fine. Just go on these computers after if you don't have it on your personal computer. You guys can download it. It's already downloaded on all these computers. Just search Smart Notebook, and you guys can do the homework assignment right after class. You'll have time. We're probably going to finish with like 20 minutes left. Give you guys time to finish the homework assignments that I'm going to go through with you guys, and then do that Smartboard one. The social media assignment's pretty easy. If you see on Moodle, if you log in your Moodle, pull up this grade management while you're at it, the PowerPoint. But on Moodle, you'll see that there's like a storyboard assignment where he's going to go along with that final video project that you guys are going to have to make. He's going to go through that on Thursday, and he'll talk about it more in depth there. He has a direction sheet. So if you get those other two assignments done by next class, they're really easy. And you just got to work on that and submit it. I think you got it for Sunday, right, for your assignments. So submit it by Sunday. The storyboard isn't that in depth either. He's going to go through that for what he really wants from you. It's not, you don't have to finish that video project. That's coming down the road. This storyboard is just like what you're going to plan out scene by scene. So you guys already wrote up that idea that you want to submit. Now we're going to take that next step and maybe have you plan out what you're actually going to film for like this scene, for that scene. Break it down a little more, make that outline a little bit more in depth. All right? All right, so pull up this grade management module. And so as teachers, you're obviously, everyone is going to need to have some type of grade management system in your class. Do you remember, I'll show you a picture. You can have it on here. This is kind of what, if you remember this in grade school, it was like you just write it down, you're in your boxes, and you do all the calculations by hand. It's a lot easier now. As teachers, this is like a big kind of practical thing that you guys need to learn how to like do. You can practice teaching all you want, but at the end of the day, you need to have those grades. You need to have them in order, organized, so when teachers come and other parents come and ask you for student progress, student averages, you can retrieve them properly and effectively. So this is what a new grade book will look like, kind of in a new school. And it's a lot easier to develop those and create those unweighted and weighted averages that we'll talk about. So these are some common practices that you can use with a grade book. It's a lot easier to add and delete students' names. It's a lot easier to sort them from A to Z. I'll show you guys how to sort names. If you have to sort grades from highest to lowest, that's a lot easier as well. You can find class averages much easier. But what's the difference between an unweighted average and a weighted average? Who can tell me? Anybody? Any ideas? Do you guys think you're graded on unweighted averages or weighted averages? College. Weighted, right? So weighted averages are pretty much when you look at your syllabus, you see that it's like, my tests are going to be worth 20%, right? Each test I take is worth 20%, but my homework's only worth 5%. So that grade is different than just taking all the grades together and dividing by the total, as you normally take an average. So I'm going to show you how to pretty much use Excel, which is usually used in like business side of things, like business or corporate, but we're going to use it as our like grade book manager. And how to do an unweighted compared to a weighted average, sort names. And then also in Excel you can create charts and diagrams. You guys ever heard of SLOs? They're like student learning objectives. You'll get more into that when you get into your like internship. And pretty much every teacher is required to create a student learning objective for their students. and by the end give like a criteria. So like little Johnny is going to be able to solve this many math problems within 2 minutes by the end of the year. So you're going to have to show data from the beginning to the end. If you have that all in like an Excel worksheet, you can produce these graphs and diagrams much easier than you could if you're plotting them by hand, right? So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go through, we're going to do a hands-on one, and then we're going to actually just do your homework. And I'm going to do most of it right with you, and you can follow step by step. Your homework will be, if you go on the Moodle page, it'll be your homework file. We're going to go through the practice file, so we'll download that together. But what you're going to have to do is just, we're going to figure out weighted averages, averages, and then all class averages, all in this Excel sheet. Then we're just going to answer a couple questions that are asked about the data that we just made. And then we're going to save it, our name, underscore grade sheet, and submit that Excel file to Moodle. Sound good? So let's all go hop on that from our course website. Just go to the Moodle page, or Weebly page, sorry, from the Moodle page. Go over to week 10. Scroll down. Here's a tutorial. It's 402 grade management. It was made by a previous GA, but it's really good if you get confused, ever want to reference it. If you don't finish that homework today, you have questions about it, go home. It tells you step by step what to do. It's pretty self-explanatory. But so let's do the in-class practice assignment file number 3. We're going to open it up, and then we're going to hit download direct. And it'll open up here, and it's going to be a .xlsx file. This is an Excel file. It's going to look like this. Make sure you enable the editing. And then if you see this I, just drag it out a little bit so we can see it. Drag out these columns as well so we can see the names. Alright, so what you guys are going to have to do, you're not going to have to do this on the homeworks. I'll wait for you guys to pull this up. I'll give you a second. So here's clicking and stopping. Alright, so you can organize lists of names. So if we want to organize A to Z, a last name, we're going to right-click on the actual last name box. We're not going to right-click on, we're just going to right-click and then come down here to sort A to Z. And now you can see that our last names are sorted. And did you see how the numbers changed with them? If you look back up here, let's watch. So if I hit last name, I'm sorting A to Z. See how all the numbers switched with them? So the numbers went with the name. If you were to highlight this and then just do sort A to Z, it would just sort what you highlighted, but it wouldn't take that last name column and transfer all the grades with it. So if you did that, you would be switching up all of your students' grades, which would be horrible to do. And then you'd have Tiffany, who got 4, then ended up transferring that grade to Johnny, who got 100, right? So make sure that if you do sort them by last name and first name, you just click the actual category that you want to sort, and then sort it. We can do Z to A. We can do sort A to Z. So we'll leave it in A to Z. You can see it goes Anderson, Johnson, Smith, and Williams with all their grades right across the board. So now, let's work on getting this unweighted average first. So the unweighted average, remember the weighted is going to use these weight scores down here. But the unweighted average is just all of these scores added up, divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Before, when you had that old grade book, you'd have to do that by hand with a calculator. Now, what we're simply going to do is we're simply going to drag and highlight. You can see that green box is around all of them. You can see what is highlighted up here. You're going to go over to auto sum, but you're not going to hit auto sum. You're just going to, auto sum would just add them all together. But you're going to go to average, the little drop down bar, and it's going to give you the average of 40. We all good?
What happens if you get 40.43?
That's okay. It's just going to, once you minimize the box a little bit, it might be 40.43. They're just rounding. So it just depends on the setting on Excel. Okay, so now what you can do is once you have this, you can click off if you want. But see up here how it has a formula? It says equal average. Right up here it says equal average C2 to C12. So that's what we can look at. We have C2, and we're taking the average, and that's what's in the box right there. So if you, even if you double click that, that's the formula that was automatically made by going to that average bar. So if you type that out, if you type this out, it would do the same thing, but it automatically is preset in Excel to do that. Now the cool thing about Excel is that people would think is you're going to have to do that for each line, right? Well, that formula is already applied to this box. So all you have to do is see how I have a white kind of cross right there? Make sure it's black, go to the corner, and just drag it down. And then that formula is applied to all of those rows automatically. So if you drag it down, it automatically applies that unweighted average to all of those rows. Yeah.
Can we do it again?
I'll go back and do it again.
My T2 column is all number signs, and I can't change it.
Drag the T2 column in the gray out a little bit. So grab this I. Because see if I minimize it, it's all.
Got it.
You got it? All right, so I'll do that one more time. All right, so that formula is applied to that box. We're just going to drag it down, apply it to the other rows that we need, and it's going to look like that. Okay? So that's a simple way. Once you do one formula for one box, you can drag it down for all of them. So now we're going to do the weighted average. This one's a little more difficult because we're going to have to write our own formula. We can't just use a pre-made formula already. We're going to use just that was just the unweighted average, but now we need to do our own formula for weighted, because if you're a teacher, you're going to apply different percentages per weights per assignments, right? It's not always going to be the same, so it can't be a pre-made formula already. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we have the first box in the weighted averages highlighted. So make sure you just have it highlighted where it has that green around it. We're going to go up to the top, and we're going to write equal, and then we're going to put a parentheses, and we're going to go over, we're going to do Abby Anderson's first. And we're going to look at her homework grade. Her homework grade for the first homework is 36. What box is that in? C2. So we're going to write C2, and then we're going to put times, so shift 8. It's that little star on shift 8. And then how much is homework worth? 20%. We'll do a little math problem. What is 20% in decimal form? 0.20. So we can just put 0.2 times 0.2, close it. And then we have to add the next column. So the next column is a what? It's a quiz. And we're going to do, what'd you say? What'd you say? Are you good? Okay. The next one is going to be, it's in D2, right? That quiz 1 score. So it's D2 times, and how much is the quiz worth? 10. So it'll be 0.1. Close it. And we have to go all the way down that row. Make sure that the percentage, your decimal, corresponds to the actual assignment. So if it's a quiz, make sure it is 0.1. If it's a test, make sure it's 0.2. And if it's homework, it's 0.2. So if we go all the way down, we'll do the next one, which is E2 times, and E2 is still a quiz, so that's going to be 0.1 plus, we're going to do F2, which is still a quiz, 0.1 plus G2 which is still a quiz, so it's still going to be 0.1. And then now we're into tests when we're at H2. And our tests are 0.2. And then make sure we stop at I2. We don't need that unweighted average. All we need is I2 plus times 0.2. Sorry. All right, and then once you do that, you can see, and then you hit enter. Once you go all the way through, you can double check it, and it'll give you that weighted average. So that's what your weighted average is once you hit enter. And if you go back up to that box, and you just highlight that box, you can see that formula we put in. You have to make sure to put that equal sign in front of it, because it won't know it's a formula unless you put that equal sign in front of it. And then what do you think we're going to do? Same thing we did with the weighted. Is just click, drag that black arrow down, and it'll apply that same formula to all of our students. Is everyone all right with that? Yeah, make sure it corresponds, I asked students last time, make sure it corresponds to the actual assignment. Because if you put a homework assignment that's worth 20%, it's going to change your whole weighted average. So make sure it corresponds. Yep. Just say that. Yeah, so you're good. And if you have to go double check that formula again, if something's wrong, your numbers don't look like mine, go back up there and double check it and make sure that it has C2 times the correct decimal. D2 times the correct decimal. Are we all right?
Yes.
Can you help, Kitty? All right, so now we have one more thing we have to do. We have to do the class average. So now we know how each student did with the unweighted and the weighted. I'll give everybody a couple seconds. Finish up this process. Double check it. You two okay? All right. So the class average. What we're going to do is we're just going to go to that box, that first box down here. We're going to right-click it. We are going to, actually, we just need to highlight it. We don't even need to right-click it. We just need to highlight it. We're going to go back to this average button. Back up to that average button.
Which one? Did you click?
Go back. So we're going to go to this box underneath our first column, our column C. We're just going to click it, highlight that box. We're going to go back under to average. It's going to say C2 to C6. Is there anything in C6? No, there's not. So we're just going to change that. Click behind the C6, change it to C5, and now you can see that these numbers are highlighted. Click enter, and it'll apply that average to that. I'll do that process one more time so you guys can see it. Highlight that box, go up to average, C2 to C6. There's nothing in C6. We're going to click behind C6, click C5, click enter, and then now we have the class average for homeworks, 66. We want to apply this same formula to all of the columns. Gonna grab that black cross in the bottom, apply it to all of them. There you go.